Welcome to the Nameless. Everyone who attended never came back. I remembered that line while standing in my kitchen at 3 in the morning, holding a thin piece of paper I didn't remember picking up. The house was quiet in that way that only happens when the power is out, and you don't realize how many small noises usually fill the space. The flyer felt warm, like it had been in someone's pocket. I stood there longer than I should have, rereading the words under the yellowed light of my phone screen, already wishing I could forget how I'd come across it. Before all of this, my town was forgettable in the safest way possible. One of those places people passed through without stopping unless they needed gas or a cheap motel. We had one main street, a couple of diners that closed early, and neighborhoods that all looked slightly too similar. I'd lived there my entire life. Nothing big ever happened. No headlines, no scandals, no stories people told years later. I worked evenings at a print shop just off Main Street. We did flyers, menus, church bulletins, that sort of thing. It was steady work, boring enough that the days blurred together. I lived alone in a small rental house about 10 minutes away, close enough that I could walk if my car ever broke down. Most nights I came home, microwaved something, and watched whatever was on until I fell asleep on the couch. The flyers started appearing about a month before anyone noticed people were missing. At first, I only saw one. It was taped to a lamppost near the grocery store. Simple design, off-white paper, no logos, just text printed in a soft gray font that felt deliberately calm. Light gathering, all are welcome, an evening of reflection, location provided upon RSVP. There was an email address at the bottom. Nothing else. No date, no time. It felt incomplete, like someone had torn off half of it, but there were no perforations or tabs missing. I assumed it was some kind of meditation group or pop-up church thing. We got a lot of those passing through town. Then I saw another, and another. They started showing up everywhere, on bulletin boards, in the laundromat, slipped under windshield wipers. Someone even slid one through the mail slot at the shop. That one bothered me more than the rest, because it meant whoever was doing this knew where we worked and when we weren't paying attention. I asked my coworker, Ben, if he heard anything about it. He laughed and said his cousin had already signed up. Free food, probably, he said, or at least free coffee. People will show up for that. A few days later, Ben didn't come into work. No call, no text. The owner assumed he quit without notice, which wasn't uncommon. But then his cousin showed up asking if we'd seen him. That was the first time it felt strange instead of coincidental. Over the next 2 weeks, people started noticing gaps. A neighbor whose porch light was always on. A cashier who'd worked the same register for years. A woman who walked her dog past my house every evening at the same time. They were just gone. No moving trucks, no goodbye posts online. Their social media accounts stopped updating mid-conversation. The police said adults were allowed to leave town if they wanted. No signs of foul play, no abandoned cars, no struggle. It was like they'd stepped off the edge of the map. The flyers didn't stop. If anything, there were more of them. One night, after closing up the shop, I found a stack waiting on the counter. Freshly printed, same paper, same font. The owner swore he hadn't approved the job. There was no invoice, no file on the computer, just 50 identical flyers, warm from the printer. I should have thrown them away. I didn't. I took one home. That was the one I was holding in my kitchen at 3 in the morning. The email address on the bottom looked generic, but when I typed it into my phone, a reply came almost immediately. No greeting, just a location and a time. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. An address I recognized only vaguely, out near the old water treatment facility that had been shut down years ago. I told myself I was just curious, that I wanted to see if this was some kind of scam or social experiment. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. The road out there was barely lit. My headlights caught more fog than asphalt. When I pulled up, there were already cars parked along the dirt shoulder, lined up too neatly. No music, no voices, just engines ticking as they cooled. The building was smaller than I expected. Concrete walls, no windows I could see, just a single door glowing softly from within. The light spilling out wasn't harsh. It was warm, almost inviting. Inside, the air smelled faintly like dust and something sweet I couldn't place. There were chairs arranged in a loose circle. Maybe 20 people already seated, all quiet. Not staring exactly, but aware, like they'd been expecting me. A man near the door nodded and gestured for me to sit. He didn't introduce himself. No one did. There was no chanting, no symbols, nothing overtly strange, just silence, broken occasionally by the hum of lights overhead. After a few minutes, a woman stood up. She spoke calmly, her voice steady in a way that felt practiced. She said the gathering was about clarity, about stepping out of noise, about being seen. The words were vague, almost meaningless, but the room felt heavy when she spoke, like everyone was holding the same breath. At one point, she asked us to close our eyes. I didn't. While everyone else lowered their heads, I watched. Nothing obvious happened. No one moved. But I had the sudden, overwhelming sense that something had shifted, like a pressure change. The lights dimmed slightly, or maybe my eyes were just adjusting. When she told us we could leave, no one rushed for the door. People stood slowly, calmly. Some smiled at each other like old friends. I waited until the room was almost empty before I followed. Outside, I noticed there were fewer cars than before. I drove home in silence, slept poorly, dreamed of standing in a circle, watching myself sit down. The next morning, I tried to tell myself it was nothing. A strange meeting, sure, but harmless. Except when I checked the local news. 3 more missing persons reported overnight. All adults, all last seen leaving their homes alone. One of them had been at the gathering. I recognized his face from the circle. I didn't go back. I blocked the email address. I tore down flyers when I saw them. They still showed up. One evening, I found one taped to my front door. This one was different. Same design, but at the bottom, beneath the email, was a handwritten line. "Thank you for attending." I didn't remember giving my address. That night, I heard footsteps outside my house. Slow, unhurried. They stopped at my door. No knock, just the sound of someone standing there, breathing. I stayed on the couch until morning. The gathering stopped after that. The flyers disappeared. The police closed the missing persons cases quietly, citing lack of evidence. Life in town resumed its dull rhythm, minus the people who never came back. Sometimes, late at night, I still check my email. Nothing new ever comes in. But occasionally, when I pass that old building on my way out of town, I see a light on inside. Soft, yellow. And I think about how easy it would be to pull over, just to see if anyone's still there.